So, a little bit of a warning for you that this episode is probably going to trigger you. It's going to trigger you in not necessarily a bad way, but it's certainly going to trigger you. And I know that because when I was telling the people that I'm around in the real world, like the physical 3D world versus the podcast world or the YouTube world, I was telling them I was going to do this. And there was like a visceral response that each of them had. You could see it like physically when I said, this is what I'm going to do. So let me give you a little bit of a backstory, then I'll give you the punchline. Then I'm going to kiss the boo-boo and make it all better. Sound like a good plan? Let's go. All right. So one of the things that I recognized over the last probably 2 weeks was that this device, and if you're listening audio only, you're going to just have to recognize that I am holding up my mobile phone right now. This device right here was absolutely crushing me in business. And here's how. I would have it on my desk and I'd be working on something else, but for whatever reason, I'd pick it up. I would pick it up because there was a notification. One of the apps that I use a lot is called Voxer. It's like a walkie-talkie voice chat app that I use with my clients and then a couple business groups that I'm in. And I see these notifications all the time. It's funny. I just got 3 notifications while I've been giving you guys just this last 30 seconds of delivery here. So I was picking it up all the time. And I started analyzing what I was doing in 15-minute increments every day. I did a time study, figure out like, hey, where's all my time going? Because there are times still where I'll go home at night and I'll have worked for 8 hours, 9 hours, but I don't ever remember what I really did. My wife will say, what'd you do today? And I'll go like, I really don't know. Like, I really don't know. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that I kept on picking up my phone and it was pissing me off last week. And I wrote a whole thing about it where I'm like, I don't want this thing in my life right now. And it's not the social media apps because I thought that's what it was. So about 6 months ago, or maybe 8 months ago now, I deleted Facebook and I deleted Instagram off of my phone because Instagram was really like my kryptonite, I guess. I guess I would say I'm Superman and I'm far from Superman. But it was the thing that I would go to the most. And what I was looking at the most is I would look at Instagram fitness models and I would look at cars. I'd look at Lamborghinis and McLarens and Ferraris and all that. And neither of those things served my life because, one, it's like, I remember my wife opening my phone. She was going to do a story for me on Instagram, like take a video of me. And like the first thing that popped up is one of these fitness models who's 22 and has a 6-pack. And, it made my wife feel awful that that's what I was looking at. And it's like, that's not the type of marriage that I want to have. Like, I want the gratitude and appreciation and energy towards my wife, not towards anybody else. And then with the car thing, like I just kept on looking and looking and looking, and it kept making me want and want and want, even though it's like I've already got a fast car. So it's not like I really need anything else. So anyway, I was like, I'm deleting Instagram. This is bullshit. Like, it's going away. So I deleted Instagram. I deleted Facebook. And it was better. But here's what's interesting. It wasn't the apps that I was addicted to. It was the phone itself. Because what did I start doing? I started opening my phone and checking my email way more often. I started opening my phone and checking out Gmail because I've got a work address and I've got a Gmail address. And so I'd start checking out Gmail. Then YouTube caught me. So I'd start looking at YouTube going like, oh, well, I'll get my news from YouTube because I don't have Twitter or anything. And so I start looking through YouTube and I would scroll and scroll and scroll and maybe think that the next video was going to be something interesting to me. Maybe the next video was going to be something interesting to me. Oh, let me go back and check my Gmail because that would be really, really interesting. Now, you might be telling yourself, you're like, oh, dude, this guy's got ADD. But look at your own behaviors. And my bet is that they're not that dissimilar from mine. These phones, I'm holding it up again. These phones, which by the way, since we've been talking, I had 5 notifications of this Voxer app on my phone. But this thing, it's an addiction. Now, let's say, for example, that you saw somebody every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock and they're drinking wine straight out of the bottle, every Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. You'd probably be thinking to yourself, like, man, that person's got a problem. We need some help. Yet you see everyone with this thing in their hand all the time. When there is a moment of feeling bored, you pick it up, don't you? You do. It's what happens. It's the one addiction that we've all seemed to say, well, that's okay. Like that's totally okay. I mean, and alcohol is kind of like that in our society. It's okay to have an addiction and call yourself a casual drinker, even though the reality of it is that you drink way too much. Drinking every day is not a casual drinker. If you drink every day, that fits the definition of an alcoholic. And I'm not throwing stones because I'm one too, even though right now I am on 16 days straight of no alcohol, because I do that every now and then just to prove to myself that I still can. The point is that it is an addiction. And the only way that I could think about to cut the addiction was going without it. And that's where the visceral reaction came in when I told people that I was going to do this. I said, I'm going to ditch my phone just for a weekend. Like ditch it as in put it in a safe at my house. Don't look at it. Don't think about it. Just walk away from it. And I was thinking about doing this and I was thinking, is that even possible? Is that possible? Because what about all the text messages I get? What if I am out and I want to text my wife and let her know that I'm on the way home? Or what if she's out and she needs help from something? Like, what do we do? How does that work? That's the story that I was telling myself, because that's the convenience of the way that we have chosen to live our lives right now. The interesting thing is that I remember when Blackberries came out. Blackberries was about setting you free. You could work from anywhere. But what I don't know that they intended to do, but this is what happened, it put us in a position where instead of working from anywhere, we're working always. There was a time when you actually had to leave a voicemail, and I'm old enough to know that there was a time when I did not have mobile device with my email on it. So if you sent me an email and I wasn't in the office, that was it. There wasn't any of this bullshit where you get the emails back from people on their autoresponders saying I'm away and have limited access to email. Bullshit, you have limited access to email. You've got maximum access to email. You're just choosing not to look at it, which is totally fine. I'm cool with that. Just don't lie to me and say you have limited access. It's there all the time. This thing, walking away from it, I'm going like, how am I going to do this? Like, how is it? Like, what, all this stuff. Well, what would happen if my wife needed me? Well, she's going to have to figure it out now, isn't she? What if somebody else needs me? Like, what if a client needs me? They can email me. I'll get back to them. I still have a desktop computer. I could look at that maybe once or twice a day. Instead of every time I'm at a stoplight going like, oh man, I've got 3 minutes to spare. I'm bored. Let me look at my phone. So I ditched it for a weekend. And here's the crazy part. If you had a visceral reaction to getting rid of it, going like, I don't know how that would work. Nothing happened. I missed nothing. Nothing. There was a bunch of notifications. Like my screen was full. You know how your screen lights up with all the notifications that you missed since last time you picked it up? I had a bunch, but none of them were urgent. Now here's the thing to consider. If you are addicted to your device, which chances are you are, and again, that's not a negative dispersion on you because everybody has this same addiction. I have this same addiction. If you're addicted to your device, then what's the best way to break it? What would you do? Because the principle is the more you cheat, the more you cheat. So if you have it consistently with you, then you're consistently going to check it. You just will. There's no other way. So you have to give yourself an environmental assist. Like from a tactical perspective, that's the best way to change any habit. You make the habit that you don't want to exhibit harder to execute. So for example, if you don't want to drink like every night, then don't have any alcohol in your house. Force yourself every time to go out to a bar, and you won't do it always because, oh man, I got to go out to the bar. I got to get dressed again. Like all this stuff. I don't want to do it. I'm not going to. Or I don't want to eat ice cream. Don't have any ice cream in your house. You have to drive yourself to the grocery store, get ice cream, and then come back. You won't do it all the time. The simplest things and obstacles can make you not do something that you would otherwise do. For example, this phone, while it's in here right now because it controls the studio lights, is normally outside of the space that I work. I put it in a separate office inside of my bigger office because I know I won't look at it. Your device is one that you can separate from. You do not have a badge and a gun. Maybe you have a gun. I hope you have a gun. But you don't have a badge and you don't have a fire truck. So if the idea is that there's going to be an emergency that you're going to miss, that emergency is an emergency you're telling yourself is an emergency versus an actual emergency. So it is possible to get rid of your phone. I would love to be able to get rid of this. My next step is to get rid of it for a little bit longer. I got rid of it for 48 hours. My next step is to get rid of it for 72 hours. Figure out when I'm going to do that. But it's got to go. Because if you don't, then it's just the grip is going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. Now, I don't know who needed to hear this today about the people that listen to this podcast. I don't know who needed to hear this, or if a bunch of you needed to hear it, or if all of you needed to hear it. But that thing that's in your pocket that constantly calls you, not calls you in terms of like someone else on the other end of the line calling you that wants to talk to you. It calls you because of all the push notifications. It calls you because you're curious about what you're missing. This is a war that you have to win. Because there is no shot at maximum productivity without it. You're always going to be wanting. You're always going to feel like you could have done more, feel like you're unfulfilled, all because you're getting fulfillment from a place that you really don't need it. All right, guys, that's it. That's the show for the day, everybody. Thank you so much for being on the show. If you know somebody that's addicted to their device, and that person needs to hear this episode like they do. If they're addicted to their device, they need to hear this episode and need to recognize it's not so bad to not have it. So share it with them. All you got to do is hit the share icon and text it to them. They'll be able to listen to it. Hit the share icon on YouTube. They'll be able to watch it. And that's it. That's all I want you to do. I want to try to wage a war against people being addicted to their devices. And I don't know if I'm the only one doing it, but this is at least where it starts for us. All right, maybe that was a downer a little bit today, but hopefully it's going to uplift you at some point, because you do need to be able to get rid of your device if it controls any portion of your day. If you know somebody that needed to hear this episode because they're addicted to their device, please make sure to hit the share icon, text them a copy of this video. They'll be able to watch it. They'll get the same information that you got. Do not keep that for yourself. All right, guys, thanks for watching this one. I will see you on the next video.